Boa tarde a todos. Obrigado por terem encarado essa chuva hoje que está realmente convidativa para ficar em casa, né? Mas vocês vieram aqui por um grande motivo. O cara que me influenciou a fazer o Putinada, meu documentário sobre o punk brasileiro, diretor de não sei quantos clipes, de não sei quantos documentários, DJ, figuraça. Esse merece. Mr. Donovan. Got some questions here. Ó, só vou toque, na hora que abrir as perguntas, ele só odeia que perguntem como é que era o Joe Strummer, tá? Já falou, se perguntar isso eu não respondo. Começar, ele nascido em Londres, descendente de jamaicanos, queria saber então onde que ele nasceu exatamente, como é que era a relação com a Jamaica. Mr. Don, born and raised in London, am I right?
Yeah, I was born and raised in London. I was born in 1956. I'm as old as rock and roll. But it's interesting that nowadays I can say first generation British born black. But in the 60s and 70s, this was a very confusing concept.
I guess.
Hey, do I have to wait while she does her thing, or I can just keep speaking?
Let's ask her. Você quer que espere para onde você vai traduzindo?
I just keep speaking?
You keep speaking, man.
Tudo bem. Okay, so as I said, in the mid-70s, very confusing concept, and it took a very long time before being black and British actually meant something. In fact, it was not until the 80s when groups came along like Soul to Soul that all of a sudden being black and British actually meant something.
Your daddy, o pai dele tinha um sound system daqueles equipamentos de som que usavam na Jamaica, né? Nas batalhas de rua, o pai dele tinha um em Londres. So what about the sound system of your father?
The sound system that my father had, it's very different from what you know today. It wasn't people playing hardcore reggae and smoking big spliffs. It was in the early 60s in England, and it was a way for the new immigrants to come together to get news from back home and express how they felt. They were strangers in a new land, and the only thing they had was their music and each other.
Do you think that será que eles foram bem-vindos, né, os jamaicanos lá? Do you think that the Jamaican people were welcome in London, in England in general?
No, they didn't like black people at all.
At all?
At all, no. There was a big problem because a lot of the poorer white working class thought that we came to steal their jobs. But this was not the case. England was in a very bad state, totally destroyed after the war, and needed rebuilding. And black people came and we did the jobs that the white people did not want to do.
Eu tava vendo agora os punks ingleses, ali, as bandas e tal, e mesmo os punks não tinham negros, né? Era engraçado. Quero saber por quê. Why do you think that there were no black people among the punks?
There was no black people amongst the punks because we already had our rebellious music. We had our soundtrack. So we weren't really looking for that. All reggae really what was looking for was exposure. The punks, what they liked in reggae was they liked the bass lines, they liked the anti-establishment vibe, they liked the fact that the songs were about day-to-day life, like how you're going to live. And they loved the weed as well. And that's what punk got from reggae. What reggae got from punk was exposure. And that's all it needed, because if you look at the journey of Jamaican music, from where it started to where it is today, it's incredible. It is part of the fabric of popular music.
Como é que os punks será que entraram em contato com o reggae? How did the punks got in touch with reggae?
There are certain areas in London where you had big black communities, Brixton, Harlesden, Notting Hill Gate. And the young, hip, white people, they knew that they wanted to hear some rebellious music and get a good spliff. That's where they went.
The right spot.
Yeah. Before the Roxy, I was never a DJ. I used to work in a shop on the King's Road, Chelsea, where a lot of the early punk guys would come and hang out. And in that shop, I played music that I liked. I played hardcore, dub reggae. And the guy that was the accountant for that shop, he decided to open the first punk rock venue for bands to play live. And he said, Don, come and have a go at being the DJ. And I was like, okay, I'll try it. But there were no punk records to play, no English punk records. So I play what I like. I play dub reggae. Lucky for me, the punks liked it too. So the whole punky reggae thing was really an accident. Because maybe if there was lots of UK punk records, I would have been playing them. But funnily, I did try to kind of identify groups that I thought were part of that scene. So I played some New York Dolls, I played the Stooges, I played
MC5.
MC5. There was another band from Australia, the Saints, I played. But what was funny was, the punk said to me, look, stop playing that and keep playing reggae. They loved it. Somebody once told me, a guy called John Savage, he wrote a very interesting book called England's Dreaming. And he said that the reason the punks liked the reggae so much is that most of the bands were so fucking awful, they sounded terrible, that you were really glad to hear some decent music in between the live sets. I mean, you know, people look back at this period, they think it was all great, but it wasn't all great. Trust me, 60% of it was shit. You know, but in amongst that madness, there were moments of genius. There were moments of inspiration. I would not be here now talking to you if I did not see the Sex Pistols play, or the Clash play. And listen, I didn't understand one word they were saying. But you saw this energy that was undeniable. You know what I mean? There was something, and you wanted to be involved. That was the thing about punk. It wasn't enough just to be a fan. You know, you wanted to be part of it. You knew something was happening. There were many people in the audience that took that same energy and it informed whatever they did. So after seeing the Pistols, you know, you might get punk rock graphic artists or punk rock fashion designers or punk rock photographers, or indeed someone like myself, a punk rock filmmaker. It was with punk DIY inspiration that I reinvented myself as Don Letts filmmaker.
When did you buy your camera?
To be quite honest with you, a woman bought the camera for me. A very beautiful woman, and she liked me. But seriously, and much respect, I give her much respect, but she saw that I wanted to do something, and she gave me the opportunity. Her name is Caroline Baker.
Former girlfriend? Ex-namorada?
Yes, yes. Yes.
Just a note.
Behind every great man are many great women.
Perguntar pra ele se, na hora que ele tava filmando, essa é uma curiosidade que eu tenho, se ele já sentia que aquele movimento ia ser importante, né? When you started shooting the punk bands, did you have the feeling that that was going to be really big?
No, when I started filming, to be honest, I was just learning to film. But I filmed the bands that I liked, obviously. Pistols, Clash, Slits, Buzzcocks, Susie and the Banshees. That's almost it. No.
Subway Sect.
Yeah, that's the Subway Sect. But what happened was, I read in the paper one day, there's a music paper called the NME in England, and it said, Don Letts is making a punk rock movie. I said, this is a good idea. I will call it a movie. And that's what happened. That's how the punk rock movie came to be. It's really me learning to get my shit together. And I think the only talent that I really had at that time was having good taste. Because obviously, well, from my perspective, I filmed the right bands.
Você que tinha muito material para editar o punk rock movie. Whenever you edit the punk rock movie, did you have a lot of material?
I've got hours and hours of material, and in fact, I'm desperate to do a new version. Because, shit, I'm going to tell you now, when are they showing it? They're showing it tonight?
Tonight.
Yeah, and we could only find a really, really bad copy, and I'm really worried it's going to look like shit. So if it looks like shit, I apologize now, okay? But, and I promise you that I'm going to do a new remastered version, and it will look fantastic. But, yeah, I'm so worried about tonight. But anyway, what were you asking me?
How was the Roxy? Como é que era o Roxy? Porque assim, eu tive no CBGB uma vez, eu tinha o maior sonho que o CBGB em Nova York era maravilhoso, era um pulgueiro, né? E parece que o Roxy...
I'll tell you something else that's funny about the Roxy. So, I get the gig to DJ and I'm playing reggae. And I go home to my house where I'm living with 4 or 5 other Rasta men, 4 black guys. And I say, oh, I've got the gig DJing at the Roxy. Do you want to come and get a job? And they all like, ah ha ha, told me to fuck off. But I got them to come and have a look. So they came to the Roxy, and they see all the girls, and they see a lot of potential, they see a potential herb market. Do you understand what I mean? 1 week later, they're all working in the Roxy. And this was very much, seriously now, a part of the punky reggae party. The whole club was run by me and like 4 other Rasta guys. In fact, here, I remember this. One day, you know who Shane McGowan is? The Pogues. Pogues. He's at the bar. And listen, oh yeah, the punks, they couldn't make their own spliffs. So my friends, we make them for them, and we sell them from behind the bar.
They didn't know how to skin up?
They couldn't skin up. They were young, they're really young. So Shane McGowan, he goes to the bar, give me 2 beers and 1 spliff. And he goes, no, give me 2 spliffs and 1 beer. It was good cultural exchange. It was great times. All the great clubs are all shitholes. The Cavern was a shithole. But it's not the physical place, it's the people that were inside. But still, you know, I think all great movements, you need 3 ingredients. You need the music, you need the people, and you need a place for them to exchange ideas. You know, and that's something I think we need more of today. With today's technology, everybody's on their own, and I think we need more chemistry where we look each other in the eye. But now I'm talking shit. Ask me another question.
Sabe que o Roxy foi o principal bar dos punks, né? Do you think that the Roxy was the main spot for the punks?
For a brief moment in time, it was the center of punk rock universe. For a very brief moment in time, people don't realize the original club lasted for 100 days, and then it was finished. But then again, the punk rock scene, from when it kind of started to when it finished, is about 18 months.
Quando você acha que o punk deixou de ser interessante?
The moment the newspapers started saying to people, this is how to be a punk. And the minute that happened, all the smart people, they stopped calling themselves punks, and then that's when the post-punk scene started, which I think musically was much more interesting because it didn't have all these rules. Okay, so I'm filming at the Roxy. So the first films that I really started to do were music videos. And I'm going to show you a little selection of some of them. Do you like that?
Yeah.
Can we see? Yeah, this one, please. This is a compilation of different artists I've worked with. Some of them. Lights, kill the lights. That's it. Lights.
Do you have an idea how many videos you direct in your life?
About 400.
400?
Yeah, but then I got fed up. You know, when I started, I was working with really interesting bands, and they kind of let you get on with it. They didn't want to be actors, and it wasn't just about selling product, kind of. But things changed, and with MTV, it became very controlled, and I just got fed up of doing it, to be honest.
And I like the diversity, because you have punk bands, pop bands, reggae bands. You did different kind of music.
Yeah, as long as I like the music, I'd have a go, you know. And it was a good way to travel the world. Because I was doing it in the 80s, and there was a lot of money for videos. Even though most of the videos I did were very low budget. It was more about the idea and not so much about lots of money.
Dos princípios que eu acho mais legal do punk, o principal para mim é o do it yourself.
Punk rock said, you know, if you have a good idea and the motivation, you know, you can be part of this thing. And I think the only training I had, if there was any, was through watching television and certain films. You know, I remember when I saw a film called A Harder They Come, which is Jamaica's most famous film, stars Jimmy Cliff. And let me put it in context. You have to understand, I'm living in England I've never been to Jamaica. And I know what we sound like because we have reggae music. So I know, okay, we sound like this. But there was no visual expression of my culture. And then I see A Harder They Come. And it was like a revelation. All of a sudden I understood, you know, the background of the songs and the lyrics, and I was really taken by cinema's power to be able to entertain, inform, and inspire. And I thought, you know, well, maybe I'd like to express myself visually as well. This is 1972, I'm like 14 years old. The idea of a black man making films in England back then is ridiculous. Back then, we drove buses and we swept the streets. But then, 1977 comes, punk rock, with a punk attitude, and it says, DIY, do it yourself. So when Joe Strummer is picking up a guitar, and the Pistols are picking up a guitar, I wanted to pick up something as well. I picked up a Super 8 camera, and like I said, reinvented myself as Don Letts the filmmaker, and sort of learned my craft through being out there on the field and doing it as and it's interesting because I'll tell you this is important. Back in those days, Super 8 film, you guys know what Super 8, you know? Yeah, right, okay, sorry. But every 3 minutes with processing cost about 15, 20 pounds in the mid-70s. I mean, that's a lot of fucking money. Well, how much is that, right? It's a lot of money. Best training I ever had. Because every time, you aim that camera and you pointed it, you had to really think about that shot and why you were shooting it.